did. Yet they tell you things are looking up. You fear that America is becoming poorer, less safe, less respected, and less free by the day. Yet they tell you the border is safe and America is secure. The White House says inflation is transitory. Deficits don't matter. And the spike in crime is just a bump in the road. Yet you know that doesn't add up. That's where we're different. I don't dismiss your fears. I share them. And I, along with every Republican running for Congress this year, share your unwavering conviction that we must change direction in Washington before it is too late. The American experiment and the good people who believe in it have not said their last word. The electric cord of liberty still sparks in our hearts. The spirit of the Pilgrims, the Patriots, and the Pioneers still inspire our souls. Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Our nation can flourish again, and under a new historic Republican majority, it will. For the past 2 years have been a time of trial for Americans everywhere. Never in modern times has an administration promised more and delivered less. And they have no one to blame but themselves. In the past 2 years, Joe Biden has launched an assault on the soul of America, on its people, on its laws, on its most sacred values. He has launched an assault on our democracy. His policies have severely wounded America's soul, diminished America's spirit, and betrayed America's trust. For the past 19 months, Democrats have had total control in Washington. They control the House. They control the Senate. They control the White House. They have all the levers of power. So let me ask you this. How have they done? Democrats control every committee in Congress, responsible for our nation's safety, our prosperity, our education, and our government oversight. They are in charge of every federal agency responsible for our law enforcement, for drug enforcement, for our homeland security, for our border security. They're responsible for our food supply, our energy supply, our public health, our public education, our federal spending, our federal borrowing, and even our foreign affairs. So let me ask you again, how have they done? Are you better off? What has 2 years of one-party Democrat rule in Washington given us? Now let me state the obvious. Our economy is now in a recession. Here are the facts. Fact, our supply chains are collapsing. Our transportation system is completely dysfunctional. Air travel has never been more unpredictable. Fact, families go to the grocery store to find empty shelves. Necessities like baby formula have been impossible to find, which means many children can't get the nutrition that they need. If you can find what you need at the store, it costs more, a lot more. Food prices are up more than 13%, the highest increase ever. We're told again and again by Washington that it's all temporary. The historic spending binge of Joe Biden and his Democrat Congress has brought the greatest inflation crisis to this nation in generations. Democrats spent your money on wasteful projects, including millions on ski resorts and luxury hotels, and even spending $1 billion of hardworking taxpayer money on stimulus checks to violent criminals in prison. Yes, and they even sent one to the Boston bomber. This has only driven inflation higher. Here's what it means to the American people. For senior citizens, a lifetime of savings is being wiped out. Their 401ks are now 201ks. For our mid-career workers, wages are being ravaged. Young people cannot afford rent, not even to mention to buy. Mortgages are now out of reach. Families are barely able to make ends meet. Electricity and energy costs, they are consuming household budgets. Citizens are forced to make agonizing choices every single day just to pay the bills. You know, more than 20 million American households, that's about 1 in every 6 families, have fallen behind on the utility bills. The amount they owe has doubled since the beginning of the pandemic, and winter is coming. Fact, gas prices are 60% higher than what Joe Biden took office. He inherited energy independence from President Trump, but is now traveling the world begging foreign countries for energy to power our country. We have God-given American-made energy we need right here, right now. But Joe Biden has locked it away and raised the price of gas. Fact, real income. What you take home after inflation and taxes is lower now than when Joe Biden took office. Let me ask everyone this question. How many of you can afford to give up 1 month of your income? I bet not many. But if you've had a constant salary for the past year, you've had more than 1 month of your income taken away. Millions of Americans are falling backwards into poverty, not making progress. And the hardship does not end there. Because of the extreme soft-on-crime policies of Joe Biden and the defund police Democrat Party, our communities haven't been this dangerous in decades. You want the facts? Last year was the deadliest year in America in 20 years. That includes attacks on our police officers. And this year is no better. Democrat prosecutors and Democrat politicians have declared war on public safety. At our southern border, our safety isn't just at risk. Our national security has been compromised. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and the Democrat Congress have created the worst illegal immigration crisis in all the history of our country. They eliminated every successful policy put in place during the Trump administration and adopted a policy of releasing illegal immigrants by the millions into the United States. Our border is now wide open. Last fiscal year under Biden, there were nearly 1.5 million apprehensions in our southern border. Fact, that is a record. This year, Biden has already broken last year's record. Almost 2 million illegal immigrants were apprehended. That includes 66 individuals on the terrorist watch list. You have to ask this question. Why are those on a terrorist watch list coming to America? And what do they have planned for us? But it doesn't include the over 500,000 gotaways, or the countless more unknown gotaways slipping in completely undetected as our border agents are pulled off the line. Fact, the number of illegal immigrants who've crossed our border under Biden easily exceeds the population of dozens of states. Think about what this means for our healthcare system. our hospital system, our education system. And think about what a wide open border had meant for the lives of younger Americans. Criminal cartels are now in full control of our southern border. They decide who and what comes into our country. And that means record amounts of drugs flooding into our cities and towns. Every American city is now a border city. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. Fact, Biden's open border policies are killing Americans. Fentanyl is poisoning and killing 300 Americans every single day. That is equivalent to a full airplane crash every single day in our country. Why is the White House not treating this like the crisis it is? Speaking of younger Americans, our children are suffering as a result of Democrat school shutdowns. In fact, according to a national test results just released today, the pandemic has now erased 20 years of progress in reading and math proficiency. It is no wonder only 28% of Americans have trust in our public schools. And in a giant payoff to our education universities that charge more but deliver less value, Biden unilaterally bailed out high-paid, white-collar workers by transferring $1 trillion in student loan. That debt is now being paid by either people who've paid off their loans or never borrowed to begin with. We are losing our safety, our prosperity, and our freedom. The Biden administration's heavy-handed COVID policies, including firing our military heroes and our first responders, have undermined our freedoms and destroyed public trust. And what do we have to show for it? More Americans died of COVID under President Biden than under President Trump. Our pain and suffering at home have been matched by humiliation abroad. 1 year ago, our country watched in horror as Biden's botched withdrawal in Afghanistan left 13 American service members dead and landed a lasting blow to America's prestige that will haunt us for generations to come. Without question, Biden's decision led to the greatest foreign policy embarrassment in American history. Genocidal China grows stronger, bolder, and more aggressive by the day. Iran is closer to a nuclear missile than ever before. The world is more dangerous, more unstable, and more chaotic. Peace and security have been replaced by hostility and aggression. This is the record of Joe Biden. This is the record of a Democrat control in Washington. You, the American people, understand this. They want to revive the can-do spirit that this country is founded on. Yet instead of trying to bring our country together to solve these challenges, President Biden has chosen to divide, demean, and disparage his fellow Americans. Why? Simply because they disagree with his policies. That is not leadership. When the president speaks tonight at Independence Hall, the first lines out of his mouth should be to apologize for slandering tens of millions of Americans as fascists. President Biden wants to talk about the soul of the nation. Tonight, he will say democracy is at stake. And he will declare that only Democrats hold the moral upper hand. What Joe Biden doesn't understand is that the soul of America is in the tens of millions of hardworking people, of loving families, of law-abiding citizens whom he vilified for simply wanting a stronger, safer, and more prosperous country. The soul of America is not the ruling class in Washington. It is the law-abiding, tax-paying American citizen. The soul of America is our determination to get up and go to work every day, provide for our families, to love our children, be involved in their education, and ensure that this nation and its people always come first. The soul of America is our children, who deserve to learn in an education system that teaches them skills to have a better life than we do today. But for the past 19 months, the Biden administration has been doing everything in its power to crush America's soul. They force families to struggle to make ends meet. They debase the national currency so that power is vacuumed out of the middle class and shipped to the bureaucrats in Washington and the day traders of Wall Street. And they see their values, their country, their beliefs trashed in school, censored online, criminalized by the federal bureaucracy. You know, Democrats often say that America is a racist nation. They are wrong. We are a just and noble nation. We are a republic devoted, however imperfectly, to the truth that all are created equal. We are the greatest country in the history of the world. Look, an honest look at America today would offer genuine examples of our great character. We should return to our nation's timeless truths and values. We should inspire us to defend America first, not blame America first. You know, ironically, Biden is choosing to speak at Independence Hall. He has chosen a location that exemplifies the better angels of our nature. It was at Independence Hall that Thomas Jefferson wrote of the self-evident truths we cherish. It was at Independence Hall that Washington, Madison, Hamilton, and others debated the social contract that we, the people, value and venerate. Our founding fathers transmitted us a message in Philadelphia 246 years ago. That legacy is our democracy. You know, Joe Biden often says our democracy is under threat. He's right, but not for the reason he thinks. Let's spend a moment and talk about the threats to American democracy. Joe Biden and Democrats in Congress sent $1 billion of hard-earned working taxpayer money, of stimulus checks, to violent criminals behind bars. And yes, they sent one to the Boston bomber. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and Democrats support defunding the police, which led to a historic rise in crime. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and big tech colluded to silence your freedom of speech and shut down your voice on the largest communication platforms in the world. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and his Department of Justice labeled concerned parents that speak at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden has unilaterally rewritten the immigration laws of the United States, defying Congress and the Constitution that binds us all. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress are hiring an army of 87,000 new IRS agents, more than the population of Scranton, Pennsylvania. To do what? To snoop around your bank account, your Venmo, your small businesses. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden's government has shielded his family and his administration from accountability of abuses of power and foreign dealings of his son for personal gain. That is an assault on our democracy. Joe Biden and a politicized Department of Justice launched a raid on the home of his top political rival, Donald Trump. That is an assault on democracy. Joe Biden is right. Democracy is on the ballot in November. And Joe Biden and the radical left in Washington are dismantling Americans' democracy before our very eyes. There is nothing right about standing by while district attorneys release criminals into our streets, or permitting daily violence against innocent Americans. Does President Biden think it is compassionate when a 4-month-old infant and an 18-month-old toddler were left in the Arizona desert by smugglers? Or how about when 51 migrants died after being abandoned in a semi-truck in the Texas heat? Is it morally right that our children were forced to stay home from school while politicians dined out? Or when our kids did go back to school, does Joe Biden think our nation's values tell us that it's no longer the content of our character that counts, but rather the color of our skin? When biological boys are allowed to compete in girls' sports, does President Biden think that is fair? When violent criminals get stimulus checks from Democrats' wasteful spending, does President Biden think that's right or defensible? Is it fair that historic inflation is causing Americans to get second jobs, or go into credit card debt to pay for groceries, or to drive their daughter to get chemotherapy? Of course, it is not. It's cruel. And honest Americans know this. They deserve better than to be demoralized for speaking out about what they know to be true. President Biden isn't interested in the truths. All he wants to do is change the subject from the pain Americans are facing every day. But Mr. President, I have news for you. Americans don't want to change the subject. They want to change the leadership in Washington. Mr. President, you know why? Because the Democrats in Washington have no plan to make life better. No plan to stop inflation, only to increase it. No plan to secure the border and stop fentanyl from poisoning our children. No plan to reduce crime and restore law and order in our cities. No plan to put our children's futures first and give parents a voice. No plan to get the country back on track. The American people deserve a Congress that focuses on their needs. In November, our country faces a clear choice. It's a choice between two different philosophies and two different futures. This is a national referendum. A referendum on inflation, illegal immigration, indoctrination, and crime at home and humiliation abroad. A choice between soaring inflation and skyrocketing energy costs, or affordable rents and gas and groceries for you and your family. This is a choice between whether we have an open border or a secure border. A choice between protecting criminals or protecting law-abiding Americans. Republicans have a plan for a new direction that will get our country back on track. Our plan is a commitment to America. If Republicans are given the opportunity and honor to have the majority in the House, we will work day and night, hour after hour, for you, the people. We will work for an economy that is strong. We will work for a nation that is safe. We will work for a future that is built on freedom. And we will work for a government that is held accountable. We will fight to stop inflation and lower the cost of living. We will fight to lower the cost of gas. We will stop taxpayer dollars from being wasted on failed programs. We will pass the Parents' Bill of Rights so parents have a say in their children's education. We will defend American sovereignty. We will conduct vigorous oversight, check abuses of power, and hold all wrongdoers accountable, including our Department of Justice. We will move the supply chain from China back to America. We will pass tough laws and legislation to make our communities safer. We will block any bill that lowers your standard of living, that makes you and your family less safe and less free and less prosperous. And we will do everything in our power to pass legislation that raises your wages, increases your standard of living, grows the middle class, supports our police and law enforcement, tames our bureaucracy, and restores the citizens of this country to their rightful place. We will restore the soul of America, the values of America, and the promise of America. Join us. Go to takethehouse.com. Let's deliver a new leadership that gets America back on track. Thank you, and God bless America. You agree with some of this? I think we'll give you a meeting. Hope you next year. Thank you. Anybody want pictures? I'll take some pictures. Oh, yeah, I want a picture. Tell him you're a moose guy. Maybe you need it.
Sounds good. That'd be super bus by the end.